Our passion didn't start with the mouth. It started with people, with the well-being of the profession, and if you're like me, maybe a little bit of your nerdiness in all things tech too. We all want to love what we do, but the truth is, burnout, people problems, and glass ceilings can keep us from doing what we set out to do. So let's get back to the heart of connection. Welcome to the Dental Handoff. This show is about passing you the knowledge, the habits, the systems, and the strategies to lead your teams, lean on the tech, and listen to your gut while you take care of teeth. And let's get honest, the overall health of our communities. Let's stop using the wrong end of the toothbrush, y'all. My name is Dr. Kelly Tanner. Oh, and uniquely, I'm a dental hygienist too. You can consider me a guru in the dental and leadership industry. With over 3 decades of experience, my goal is to take you to the next level by empowering growth, perspective, and confidence. By identifying the gaps, recognizing the plaque, and extracting the truth with other experts in the field. I'll share their stories, empower you to own yours, and elevate your passion in the process. So have a seat in the chair, put on your bib, and let's get to work. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Kelly Tanner, your hostess with the Dental Handoff, and today I have Danette Ocegueda with me, and we have been attending the CDHA meeting here in Sacramento, California all day. I've spoken to the group and got to see my great friend Danette here, and she said, yes, I'll be on your podcast. So I wanted to bring Danette to you. Thank you so much for being a part of the Dental Handoff.
Well, thank you, Kelly. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so how Danette and I know each other is that I used to work with Philips Oral Healthcare as a professional educator, and she was one of my teammates. So we traveled and did a lot of team training together and talked about oral healthcare and felt like we made a lot of impact in the dental industry. So Danette, tell us your story and about why and how dental hygiene chose you.
Well, Kelly, dental hygiene chose me at the age of 17. And let's just say that's been a few decades ago. I was in my psychology class, and we had professors from the local dental hygiene program at Fresno City College in Fresno, California, come into our classroom and do a career day. And at the time, I thought I wanted to be a child psychologist. And after that day, I knew dental hygiene was for me. I got the little brochure, looked at it, and I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want to do. I wanted to be able to provide care to patients, but I wanted to do that independently a little bit and work a lot alongside the dental team, but I wanted to have one-on-one experiences with patients. Also knew that I could have a family as a dental hygienist, and that was very important to me at 17 years old. And from that day in my junior year of high school, I've never looked back, set the goals to be a dental hygienist, attended dental hygiene school. This is another thing that Kelly and I share together. We both attended Old Dominion University, but not at the same time frame, a couple years apart. I graduated from dental hygiene school at Old Dominion University in 1991, so I am showing my decades now. And like Kelly shared today in her presentation to the California Dental Hygienists Association, was that her director at the time, Michelle Darby, looked at her and saw something in her and encouraged her to someday go on to grad school. And that same beloved Michelle Darby also said to me that, you know, Danette, have you considered coming back someday and attending graduate school? So my someday took me to some 20 years. I raised my family and was a clinician for over 20 years when I did decide in my mid-40s that I did want to go back for my master's degree and pursue education, and attended the University of Missouri at Kansas City and finished my degree there with a Master's of Science in Dental Hygiene Education, and then taught for 9 years, as well as still continued to work as a clinician. And through that experience with leadership in the California Dental Hygienists Association. I was the Student Relations Council Chair, and students have always been my passion. And then really sort of the corporate world found me and had this opportunity that presented itself through networking and through leadership. And 6 years ago, started as the manager of professional education for Philips Oral Healthcare, and I'm headed into my 7th year in this role. And really, not only my education, but also being a researcher when I went to grad school and researching. So that built every step I've taken has built the next step and the next journey for me, Kelly, and I believe my leadership journey had a part in that as well.
So you, going back, rewinding just a little bit, so when you started off in education, you were also practicing clinically
Yes.
as well. So you did both. You did two things, because some people, when I coach or talk to them, they say, how do I do both? How do I manage both things? So how did you manage that?
Well, and interestingly enough, while raising 3 daughters, and when I decided to go back to grad school, I knew I couldn't wait for my youngest, who is now turning 20, but when my 2 older daughters graduated high school, that's when I always said that would be my time frame. So really worked as a clinician part-time, and the timing was just right as my children grew, because it was very important to me to be the leader of our household, although I do share that leadership role. Some days I do let him lead.
You let him.
I allow him to lead. He's a very good follower, and I think surround yourself by people who support you, Kelly. That is so clue to what you said. How did I do it? Because I have a very loving husband who supports me. He never asked when I asked him. I said, "Oh, you haven't said much about me applying for grad school," and he just looked at me and said, "There's really no stopping you. So how can I make dinner? How can I help you?" So I think surrounding yourself by people who empower you and believe in you and believe you can do it, it gives you that confidence to do it. So it's all a matter of timing. I think sometimes when I have spoke to people, how do I get your job, or how did you get into that? They want it now, and not really the timing to allow themselves to grow as a leader, to grow as a clinician, as an educator. And I think kind of grow and evolve and develop that emotional intelligence that we talk to. How do we communicate and learn from other people? And so I think all of these steps have led me to the next, and I believe in the power of networking, as you and I across different coasts. But people are like, well, how do you know Kelly, or how do you know so-and-so? And I think just having your eyes open and people that gravitate into your realm and what you can gain from them. And I think listening, knowing who to reach out for to get the answer, knowing that you don't always have all of the answers, but I might be able to get you that answer, or help me understand this. I don't, maybe it's leadership or about research, Kelly. How can I help you in an area? And I know with you and I sharing a passion for forensic dentistry, both of us had a little bit in that background, and how we came together and had different perspectives on that to develop a course that we did together. I think leading upward, that you rise up and you move over and you bring the next people, and we only really empower ourselves by empowering others and seeing the greatness, and not saying that I want to be like them, or I want that job. Yes, we can acquire to that, but gain the skills that you will need to move to the next opportunity that may present itself.
I remember when I was also in the role that, you're West Coast, I was East Coast, I was Southeast, but people would often come to me and say, how do you get into an opportunity like this? And So with that, I think that many corporate jobs prefer for you to have the master's degree, and I know that there are many associate level programs, but they, having that master's degree does serve you in a lot of different areas. But then also too, and this is just, it came up for me while you were talking, because I remember that people would often ask me that question. It's not just that, it's also that they wanted to know who you were connected to, also your educational background as an educator. And truly, it's going back. It's like you said earlier, everything is connected to what it was previously. And you can, just like anything in your life, you can look back 6 months ago and say, oh, that's why that happened. Or right. Even a year ago, retrospectively, it's like Steve Jobs said, it's always you can connect the dots looking backwards. But until you look back, it's hard to know how it all connected. But I remember when I was interviewing for that position, it was like they were looking at their degree, how much educational experience I had, how many audiences I've been in front of, how influencing I was in that as a leader. Do you tell people the same thing?
I do. So much, I was very happy being a clinician and raising my family. And then there was just this fire inside to do something different with it. And as I expanded and went in, I already had my bachelor's degree. So when I sought after my master's degree, I was very intentional in the programs I looked. Being from the West Coast, trained in the East, I was looking for a Midwest perspective, something different than what I was exposed to. And so I think you touched so much on that. How did the speaking come into play? How did I seek that out? Really, it was from my role as the chair of the Student Relations Council, that I had to get up and speak in front of students and then larger audiences. And so that's where, and looking back at 17, if you would have said, oh, you're going to get up and speak in front of thousands of people, I would have said, yes, I have a very outgoing personality, one-on-one, but I would have never envisioned that I would speak for a living, as you say. So as I grew and evolved, and it just seemed natural. And I think you touch on so much of it, of empowering yourself, and so much of the research background and being exposed to other people, because I chose that Midwestern perspective. And I think a lot of times we want to see the differences in people, but let's see what is the same about all of us. And grad school sparked so many interests that I was like, oh, that's really interesting, and almost like squirrel, let's go over here and let's go over here. The one thing that I knew in my heart that was me was education, that I love to educate my patients and others. And then just learning and growing from others, right? Of letting people pour into me, and then that pours out into other people. So I think if it's not an age thing, you'll know when you're ready. I cannot underestimate for those coming right out of dental hygiene school or a few years out, allow yourself that space to gain some of that clinical experience, and then never say no to an opportunity that may present itself on the forensic ends. I was deathly afraid of death. That's why I didn't want to go into nursing, because I thought I couldn't see people die. And then as I got older and the opportunity was presented by an employer to go and do the 45-hour CE course on forensic dentistry, it was facing a fear. And I think every day, to live on that edge, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. Just a little bit of uncomfort. And then sometimes, Kelly, we just maybe fake it till we make it, and finding that inner confidence, and don't let the little voice tell you can't. I used to tell my students, they would get really nervous, I'm going to see my patient, and I said, just put on the clothes of confidence. Your patient doesn't know that they're their first patient. Please don't tell them. You've been seeing your classmates, so they're not your first patient. I told one student, I want you to walk on that clinic floor and own the confidence. I am confident today. And you are confident. You are confident in exploring. You're confident at probing, and just build on that. And so I think sometimes when you say, oh, I probably shouldn't take that opportunity, when that little feeling says that to you, that's when you should absolutely take the opportunity. And a saying that I know that you shared with us at Phillips, fail forward. So we're always moving, and it's okay to stumble and fall, and it's how you get up and fight the next day.
Yeah. I mean, because you're even talking about facing your fears with death, and then also, too, the one that you, like you said, looking back at your 17-year-old self, you would never have thought that you would have been speaking in front of hundreds and thousands of people. So that's a fear for a lot of people as well.
Yes.
People say, how do you even do this? How did you get to the point where you were comfortable with that? So what would you say that you did to overcome that fear?
I think even working with a coach, and I'm very small and short, and the coach, I told him a member on our team was almost 6 feet tall, and I watched her speak, and I said, she commands the audience just by her height. I mean, a thin woman, but height, and the way she did it. And he had me video myself, and I sent my videos, and he said, Danette, I can see that you're very petite. He goes, but your energy is very large, and a little bit of humor that comes out. And he goes, let that true personality come out. I'm always nervous. I think nervous energy is a good thing. I play on it. It's about the first 2 to 3 minutes. Maybe for me it's even less now, but the first 5 minutes, always make a friendly face in the audience. Maybe they come in a few minutes early, I go over and say hi, so I already have a friendly face. On webinar, a little harder. Try to look, imagine that audience. It's one member, it may be on a webinar, I recognize the name, something like that. So you get, like anything, the more you practice it, the better you get.
Yeah.
So.
And then, because there's so many new things that you're talking about that so many people wonder about, going into corporate speaking, going into a different field where forensic odontology and the different, and exploring that field altogether. So what made you open to saying yes to any of these things?
I think I was more afraid of being stuck, and I didn't want to be stuck. And I love new adventures and like to travel. Lifelong learner, probably my greatest strength is that quest for knowledge. And I think some of that, of the fear of being stuck, was greater than the fear of going forward. Surrounding myself by people that empower me every day, as I mentioned before, colleagues like you, Kelly, that we just high-five each other, you did a great job. Asking for feedback. Don't be afraid. Feedback can be hard to receive. Find the little nugget in it that you go, you know what, they're absolutely right, because they're probably going to give you a little bit of feedback that you already know, and then try to improve on that skill, knowledge, attitude, whatever it is. And I don't think I know it all. So if I ever get that question from an audience member, I'm very honest. I don't have that answer. Let me research that. May I get back to you? And I think that is a clue. Learn from your audiences. Be open to learning from other people. And I think the diversity, as I mentioned before, of we have more in common than we have difference. And then having that quest to know about people. I love to hear their stories and their journey, and finding that there's common themes and threads in that.
Yeah. It's so important to, and I love what you said there, that knowing that people have more in common than what the differences that kind of split them apart, and bringing people together with
Yes.
that. And so taking that concept and taking it to a corporate environment, that was very different than an educational environment. So what was the main difference that you saw there, or that you experienced from education to corporate?
That's interesting. I would really have to think about that, because that was an interview question that I had. You made the transition from clinical practice to education. Now, how do you think you'll make their transition into the corporate world? And I think don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to say, I'm sorry, I don't really know that. Help me understand what it is, learning about the business. And so allow your time, because I think the company, when they see that there's something new that they see in you that they want to bring out, that they're going to allow you that time. Don't think that you have to know everything within the first 6 months. And allow your time, allow yourself that time to learn your business, and seek management feedback. And you and I share a love for our manager, and I believe that our manager believes so much in us and let us grow and develop. And praise that, and slowly gave us a little more nuggets or responsibility. Surround yourself, ask questions. It doesn't have to be within your own team. Ask in the other team members. They might be part of your bigger team, such as the marketing team or the sales team. Watch other people, observe what they do, find verbiage that you can utilize and take the nuggets.
Absolutely. And you said it so well when you said that you're not going to know everything when you first start. And with any of the transitions that you make or any of us make, is that I think that we can feel so sort of stifled and sort of frozen by the whole thing of, I don't know everything about this yet. And that's okay, because no one expects for you to. And then to lean into that, to say, help me understand, because that's what's going to help them know what you need more support with and where you are, to meet you where you are. Because otherwise they don't know what you don't know.
And I think a lot of times they want different perspective. I know coming into the role, I had a lot of research and educational background. Someone else has maybe working with dental service organizations. So a lot of times corporations are looking for a very diverse background from different people. So when you go in, if you are interviewing for those type of jobs, do point out what you bring to the table that might be unique, that is exactly what they're looking for, or they don't know they're looking for it, and then they realize that that's what they're looking for in that. And I think that's where you develop very, very strong teams who can work very well together, is when you embrace those differences and lean in.
I agree, because I know that too with our manager, that she would say, okay, Danette, I know that you enjoy this. Do you want to do this? Kelly, I know that you want to do this. Do you want to do this? So it was very much her identifying what our strengths were and where she knew that we wanted to develop based on our larger plan for our career. So it was really kind of cool to see all that support happening from a corporate level, because people have different experiences. Mine was amazing. It was a learning opportunity. Not every day was the same, which was cool. You know, that's kind of what we love about our profession. And I'm just so glad that you're able to talk to us today about your journey, and from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, because I get that question all the time about how do I. And so many people can be like, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready. And I'm
You're
like,
never ready.
Yeah, right.
And embrace that you're never ready. And growth doesn't happen, and development doesn't happen, and leadership doesn't happen unless you're willing to take that chance. And I think have the confidence that you're willing to take that chance when other people, as you said so elegant today, that someone recognized in us that we had differing potential, and being both of us very young when we graduated. How did someone recognize me at 22 or 23 that I may have this potential? And I'm certainly a very vastly different person at 56 than I was at 22 years old, and it's been fun to take the journey in the river and watch where it's taken me. And I think so much was the quest for learning it and know your time. I probably couldn't do the role I do today while I was having young children at home. And so I knew that about myself, and the timing is everything. And if someone tells you no and you go for it, that might motivate you to do even better, or it's not where you're supposed to be at that time. And I believe a lot in destiny, and whatever your beliefs may be, I think a lot of times our paths are led. And one of my experiences in graduate school is my research and writing wasn't finished, and I was so upset because I wanted to walk. In May, I'm like, okay, and they're like, no, we're going to extend your graduation till December, and it wasn't an extension. We all had different time frames, and at the time I cried because I was so worried about just walking over over a stadium
you
or
wanted to do
over
it
to
in May,
Plattsburgh,
and
right?
you wanted to do it in May, not December.
Right, and letting that time, my research was so much richer, and then it was award-winning. And all I could look up, for me, it was God, and say, oh God, your plans are so much greater than mine. All I wanted to do was walk, and he wanted me to share so much of my research and knowledge with the body and all these different people. And so all of these wonderful opportunities came out of 6 months of growth that needed to happen for the research to be richer, for me to savor it, and all of that. So sometimes the shutting of the door, kind of my foot was still in there, but I'm like, okay, it's kind of pried open, but it was the greatest gift that I couldn't see that was coming. So what was around the corner was even better than what was right in front of me.
I found that when we don't attach ourselves to exactly what the outcome looks like is when there's more freedom for everything to be possible.
Absolutely.
And that's when it's just so much like, what? I didn't even know this was possible. What? I mean, I would have been, think about what I would have only been, but it allowed you to shine.
Yes, in a different way, and meet so many more people and share my love and at the time in cultural competency, and how much that has grown, and know that our body of knowledge is still growing. You go, yeah, I graduated from dental hygiene school, nothing changes, everything changes. Mm-hmm. And I think the greater capacity to adapt to change, Kelly, is every day is change, and as you said, every day is different. And I know as clinicians, sometimes they're like, oh, I'm doing the same thing. I always saw that I was waking up a different day. I was seeing a different set of patients. And I think for you, exactly what you said, that every single day is different. Did I wake up this morning thinking I was going to do a podcast with Kelly? No, I did not. But she's like, hey, 5 minutes, we're going on. Okay. So it's very much the capacity. And I think my 22-year-old and my 17-year-old self would say, I was a little more stuck in change, and now I'm like, yep, let's go with it, and
roll with it.
Freedom. Of course, parenting will do that to you too. So,
true.
Maybe the growth for me had to happen through being a parent as well.
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because it's also connected.
It's also connected, and I will just tell you, by taking these opportunities, the vast amount of people that have been placed in my life, and the lifelong friendships all across this country, and hopefully across the world with more international opportunities. Haven't seen Europe yet. Some of that I'm very looking forward to. And as I get closer to entering my 6th decade of life, it's hard to say that I'm that age, but I'm also embracing that with a new found excitement, like what's around the next corner.
Yeah.
So I always tell students, let your river take you where it's going to, because your river isn't my river, and let your path be guided how it's going to be.
100%. So thank you so much for being
absolutely
here
my
with
pleasure.
us today. How do people get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
You can reach me via email at my first name, Danette, with a period, my last name, Ocegueda, at Phillips.com is the best way to get a hold of me. I am on Facebook. You can add me as a friend. So however, please reach out if you're out there and you're like, something you said, are you willing to mentor me or have a conversation? Absolutely. Reach out. I'd be willing to sit with you over a Zoom meeting, a half an hour. Oftentimes I do have people say, can you mentor me? And someone in this room today was someone who said that, and we met like 3 times, and it's just amazing to watch her journey. And it doesn't take much to say, tell me about this, and then it puts them off on their own little path. So absolutely.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I wanted you on our podcast today, because I knew her heart, and I knew that she might say yes, and knew that you wanted to hear her message. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today on the Dental Handoff. Please do me a favor and give us 5 stars on Apple, because that's the 5 and 10. And we appreciate your support, and you guys keep crushing it out there. Be well.
Bye, everyone.